I'm Bailey Parnell, and this is Let's Think This Through. Join me for drinks as I bring on guests for conversations that inspire, amuse, and challenge us, but in a fun and relaxing kind of way. Ultimately, it's to help us all learn and live a better, easier life. So let's think this through. Hello, all of my thinking buddies listening out there. I hope you are gearing up for the holidays. I know I am. I don't care what time of year it is. I am a four-season kind of gal. You know, like I love fall and winter. I like the changes of seasons, and this is my favorite time of year. I'm literally making lists of things that I want to do in the holidays, and it's a basic B kind of way. Like I want to go skating at Central Park. I want to go see the Rockefeller tree. I want to do all of it, and I don't care how many times I've done it before. I'm not over it yet. I don't know how long you have to be in New York City before you're over it, but I love it. And like I think about the quintessential New York bar. Everything is made of wood, and it's dark out, and there's Christmas lights on the outside, and there's a tree in the window, and I am going in, and I am getting old-fashioned. This is what I'm thinking about right now. But for drinks today, though, I am going for drinks with a friend of mine, and I don't even remember how we met. Like, seriously, I don't. There was a number of women in business events in Toronto all around the 2017 to 2020 era, and we just saw each other at a bunch of them. And I just knew we were going to be friends because she was loud, mostly because she was probably emceeing the event, and she was colorful, fun. And as time went on, we started to realize that we actually had more and more in common, like in a weird way. We realized we grew up in the same city outside of Toronto, that we volunteered the same places, and even that we knew some of the same people, like friends of my sisters. And this all happened without us knowing it throughout our lives. We both became educators. We both became entrepreneurs. And then this is where our paths collided. And since then, we've become good friends through ups and downs of life. And so on this episode of Let's Think This Through, this might be one of your favorite episodes because I am going for drinks with the Mike Slayer herself, Jam Gamble. Welcome.
Here I am saying, I'm going for drinks with you and your real books in the background.
Yeah, my real books, because someone once asked me if these were fake and if we had actually read them all.
More on that later.
Yeah. It's enough about me. You need to introduce yourself to the people.
Oh my goodness. What a pleasure and an honor it is to be on your podcast. I am Jam Gamble. I'm the founder, CEO, and the chief Mike Slayer behind the Slay the Mic program, where I help humans of all ages, literally all ages, transform their voice into their ultimate superpower.
And this is why you have had the best intro maybe on the whole podcast, because bless my friends, but usually when you're hanging with friends, I say like, introduce yourself. I know all these cool things that they've done, but then they'll be like, oh, I'm just going through life. I'm like, we need to work on this, but not you.
They could call me. I'm also a proud fur mom to two fur boys, Bowser and Chewy, Yeti, my cat, and Zuzu, our parrots. Yes. I'm a working mom.
These are the best names.
Mm-hmm.
Are you into gaming? Where did Bowser come from?
So when we got Bowser, we impulsively got a dog. More on that later. But we impulsively got a dog. Bowser is a miniature bull terrier, and I wanted him to have a tough name, but a cute name. Mm-hmm. So it's Bowser with a Z for finesse.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, obviously, if you're going to have a brand, it better have better be different.
Duh. And then Chewy is short for Chewbacca.
Oh, of course, like
because he's a long-haired dachshund. He's the most delicious baby ever. And when his fur gets a little bit longer, he's gonna look like a little Chewbacca. And when he was a puppy, he legit sounded like Chewbacca. I was like, so
are you into Star Wars?
I have been subjected to watching Star Wars.
Subjected?
I understand it. I understand it to an extent.
I'm a fan, so.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm not a defender of the series on the planet Earth.
This conversation is off to a really positive start. I love Star Wars. Fantastic. I love the whole series. It's all so good.
No, it's all right. Okay, I'll just say one thing though. If you rewatch it, watch it from the perspective of um the way people treat robots as a reflection of good or bad people. It's actually a rebellion diversity narrative.
Of course you went that deep. Of course you took the whole. Of course you did this. I'm more like beep bop 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 in the
No, you're
whatever.
not. No, you're not. I know you.
You got deep
Don't
with
even
this.
act like that.
I'm gonna watch it with like a tweed jacket on and go, oh, so this is what Bailey means. Ah, I see now. I see. You see the connection with robots and life. I see it now. It's deep. It's all okay. I'll do it just for you.
Speaking of clothing, I went to my closet this morning and I was like, maybe I'll get this white shirt. And I thought to myself this morning, wait a second, I'm hanging out with Jam today. I need to put this basic white shirt back and get something very colorful. So I'm
And
wearing yellow
yellow.
if you're not watching. And you came
Okay, can I
in
explain? Can I
brown?
explain? Can I explain? Can I
No
explain?
chance.
Just allow me to explain. Yes, I, Jam Gamble, am the sun. I am the creator and the owner of all things yellow and mustard when we come into the fall season. Um, I wore my mustard suit similar to you. We would have been matching. It's in the wash. It's in the wash right now. Okay.
Mhm.
But also, I'm leaning into my meh era.
Oh yeah.
I'm very, there was a time where I was like so branding, especially when you're doing podcasts and interviews where you're going to be on camera. I'm always someone who reps my brand to the fullest, but I'm also giving myself permission to like not always have to be on brand and just show up in a cozy jam. So this is cozy jam.
Mhm. Well, I'll buy you
Come in for a
cozy.
hug. Come in for a hug.
Aw, cute.
See? It's cozy.
I will give you a cozy jam sweater that is yellow, and then you can have best of both worlds.
I will take it, please. I'll send you my address right after this episode, and please send me all of the clothes from New York. I would appreciate that.
Yeah. Um, so what are you drinking today?
I'm so glad that you asked. So I decided to go with a healthy option. It is on brand.
Honey soda?
The yellow honey
Okay.
jam. Okay, so I am
The sun,
on
yeah.
brand, still on brand. This is honey soda. So it's from a small business that's literally down the street from my house. And I actually went there to ask them for advice on how to manage the wasp in my backyard. I am not a, believe it or not, I know it's really hard for some people to believe, I'm not very outdoorsy. I know it's hard to believe. But I'm getting better at it, right? And one of the things I do not appreciate about the outdoors is Mother Nature's little friends called bugs. I'm not
Mm.
really down with them. So we have this stunning willow tree in my Zen backyard. Love this tree, adore this tree. Did not realize that this tree would attract hundreds of wasps and hornets and bees and all the things, right? All the things. And they're all just there, zing in my backyard. So I went to this business and then obviously being the shopper I am, I was like, I have a crisis. Ooh, what's that? And I saw this honey soda and I learned that honey soda is a prebiotic. So honey is a prebiotic. It's good for your gut.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's just, I feel cleansed. I feel healthy. I feel grounded. And I'm hopeful that the bees and the wasps in my backyard will see me drinking this and go, you know what, she's a good person. Let's leave her alone.
Are are you a Soda Stream person?
We are a SodaStream household, but we also found a loophole. SodaStream canisters are way too expensive. It's actually quite offensive. It's rude, to be honest.
Okay, I'm not a
Um,
Soda Stream person.
we are a household that is firm believers in making everything into pop, or seltzer water, if you like to call it that.
Mm, right.
So there is a water store here in Milton, and they sell canisters that can be used in the Soda Stream for like two for $20 or something. It's
Nice.
a ridiculous price. So we're saving. We're supporting a small business. We're humanitarians.
Yeah, and the sun.
Yeah, and the
Speaking
sun.
of the
What do
sun,
you
I
have?
am having a mimosa today
Oh,
to
okay.
match my yellow shirt.
See, Bailey, I see. I sense that you're really, roasting me for my lack of yellow. Just for you, I'm going to hang this yellow earring.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't want it to dangle in my
No,
AirPods
yeah.
to affect
You
your
know what?
audio. I'm
You can put
considerate.
I appreciate that you were willing to adorn yourself for this conversation,
You're welcome.
and we can move on. When
I'm a
I was
humanitarian.
Yeah, yeah, when I was, looking you up for this podcast because on a normal day, I don't go Googling my friends, but when they are coming to think things through with me, I'm like, "What does the rest of the world know about my friend?" So,
Ooh, okay.
but then I actually saw something that I don't even know if we've talked about before.
Hmm.
Were you on Rogers TV?
Yes. Yes, I
You
was.
I that was the very first place I worked. Got a and had, my own volunteer positions there.
Oh yeah, because they weren't paying anybody.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I guess, like, unpaid work, let me be clear.
Unpaid, yes,
Yeah.
unpaid work. Oh my gosh, yes, that is the start of my story.
Okay, you need to tell me because local television, Rogers.
Yeah,
What did
yeah,
you
I
do
really
there?
miss it. So when I graduated from college, my mom's advice to me was don't be basic.
Fair.
Yeah, I was like, great, mom. Thank you so much for that wise wisdom. But she was right. So I went to school for my DSW, my developmental services worker, because I was already working for years with adults and children with developmental disabilities. So the majority of the people I graduated with either went back to school for nursing or they went to work in group homes. And my mom's like, absolutely not. No child of mine is working in a group home.
Hmm.
And I was like, all right, cool, fine. And Rogers TV, I had seen it a couple times when I was skipping through the channels. And I thought, hey, this would be a really good opportunity for me to go on and talk about Autism Awareness Month and talk about what we as a community could do to be more inclusive.
Mhm.
And just be aware of how we are engaging our neighbors, our classmates, our coworkers, their children, just be better humans. So did the interview, watched it back, hair looked good, outfit looked good, wasn't really impressed with my answers. And I realized that wasn't my fault. Like I answered the questions to the best of my ability. It was the interviewers because they asked questions that I specifically said, do not ask me. Like, what
Oh,
is the
geez.
cause of autism? Don't ask me. I am not a scientist. I can't answer that question. So most people, I think, when they watch an interview themselves, you watch it and you're like, oh, okay, wasn't the best, and you move on. I could have moved on, but I decided to reapproach Rogers with a different concept. And I thought when I clicked the show proposal form that I was proposing whose show I wanted to be on, not pitching a TV show. So
Oh,
I
wow.
I accidentally pitched a TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I had no experience in media. This is not what when I started the show like in 2013. This wasn't a time where we had like Instagram and all those things where we were
Yeah.
all comfortable on video or getting like this, our training wheels like
Mhm.
taken off by going online. I had none of this. I was just the kid who went from being super chatty to now the person who accidentally pitched a TV show. So came up with the show called A Voice for All, and I came up with that by Googling how to make a pilot episode because they
Mhm.
told me to record a pilot episode. I'm like, I don't know how to make a pilot episode. What's that? Go on Google, came up with the framework, recruited parents I was currently either supporting with their children or I was teaching their kids. We recorded the pilot episode. Rogers approved it. A Voice for All was born. So the premise of the show was to amplify people with disabilities' voices, not give them a voice, but to amplify their
Mhm.
voice while promoting and celebrating frontline staff, community organizations, and parents. So we could just all come together and have a better understanding of what it is to either live with a disability or be aware of programs and services that could benefit your child or your adult child. And yeah, I had that for 6 seasons. So it really tested me because it's community television. We
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have a budget for teleprompters,
Oh, there's no
right?
you gotta bring up your own camera and set it up as
Well,
yeah.
I at least didn't have to do that, but
True, a
we
host
didn't have a
can wait.
teleprompter, and so every single episode, 6 seasons, about 75 episodes or so, I winged every single episode.
That if that's not trial by fire in terms of being able to think quickly on your feet.
Big time. Big
But
time.
you know what? Tell people why you made the distinction between give a voice and amplify a voice.
Oh my gosh. First of all, like
Mhm.
that's so ableist. I'm giving a voice to people with a disability. I what?
Mhm.
Unless you have like some mythical powers, you're not giving anyone a voice. People who have a developmental disability have a voice. They have multiple ways of communicating. So there might be some individuals who can actually speak like us and communicate their thoughts and their feelings and their needs. There are others who signed
Mhm.
or others who use peck symbols or other communication devices. Or if they're nonverbal, their nonverbal body language is going to tell us if
Mm.
they are enjoying this or they are not. They have a voice. The way I interpreted it back then was like maybe the volume has is turned down, and not because they chose to turn their volume down. We
Yeah.
as a society have to turn that volume button down. So the Voice for All just aimed to turn that volume up and give them an opportunity to come on the show and talk about what their lived experience was, either having autism or being in a wheelchair, whatever it may be. Special
Mhm.
Olympics athletes, like it was such a beautiful opportunity and learning opportunity for me, to be able to host that show. And I constantly reminded people, you don't have to have a disability or know someone with a disability to be understanding towards people with a disability. You just have to be
Well,
a
that's right.
decent human.
And that's why I think it's important that some people listening, it won't be as obvious to them that distinction. That's why I
Hmm.
wanted someone like you, who's a good communicator, to explain it to people that there
Yeah,
is a voice, you know? It, there
there
always was
is.
a voice there, and
Yeah.
there's things that happen that may or may not take away from you hearing it.
Correct. And like when I even shot the commercial, we recorded it at a local community organization, many of which the adults in that program I supported for years.
Mhm.
And so they all got to be in the commercial. And three of them in the beginning, they're like, I have a voice, I have a voice. And then there was one young man who I had supported for many years who was nonverbal, but we printed out a piece of paper that said,
Mm,
I have a voice. And he got to hold it up so that people
mm,
knew that Jason had a voice. So it was a really pivotal moment in my life, because like I was the person that if you met me at a
mhm,
social gathering and you asked me what I did and I talked about my kids or the adults I serve, like I legitimately loved working with them. And
mhm,
I firmly believe I would not be the educator or the communicator I am today without
mhm.
supporting people who communicate differently.
I can completely understand that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so is you got into special education before, during, and after this. So the show almost
Before, yeah.
yeah, and like when I remember when I found out you were a teacher, I came into your life in a different era. Like I knew
Yeah.
like MC, Mike Slayer, and I was like, "What?"
Hmm.
And I think it's a part of if you're entering your brand today that you
Yeah.
wouldn't even fully know about Jam. How did
Yeah.
you get into that?
So yeah, when I graduated from school, it's actually weird that I chose to go work in the school board, because I don't recall like loving school.
Mm,
Like I went to school, I had moments in school, but I can't think back. It's like, oh, I love school. I want to be an educator, like because I was the kid who struggled sometimes,
mhm,
depending on who my teacher was. So yeah, went back to school, went and worked for the school board as a spec ed teaching assistant, which I actually hate that title. We are educators,
mm,
period, point blank. We're not
mhm,
assistants. We teach.
oh,
That's
yeah?
it. Yeah, people just like to make it sound like we don't, because we're teaching assistants, and that title, like titles are powerful, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like when we just say, "Oh yeah, Bailey's just a podcast host," like you're more than just a podcast host. We say someone is a teaching
Right.
assistant. Who are we assisting? We're there the same amount of day hours in a day that you are. We
Mm,
are caring for those kids just as much, if not more, than you are. So I don't understand
mm.
why
That's
to give
interesting.
such a dismissive title like that. But I was working, yeah, working in the board. I started the show while I was working in the board. And to your point about why I wasn't speaking about it, or a lot of people didn't know. So I was someone who I never really bragged about, having a show, because again, it was like a community television show. I wasn't getting a salary from it. I loved it, but I wasn't getting a salary. Um, and there were people who I worked with at the board who were threatened by that. They
Oh,
were
I was
so,
literally wondering, I'm like, "Did the
yeah,
board know about this show? Because that
they
does not seem
did.
like something they would support." Like,
Well,
even though it
yeah,
sounds so positive, right?
Yeah, it wasn't the board. It was people within the board. So it would be like my
Mm,
personal administrators at certain schools. So I remember having a job interview and someone asking me about like what I do and why, I'm passionate about the work I do. And of course I talked about the show. And then
mm,
she was like, oh, and I was like, but like it doesn't interfere with my teaching. Like
hmm,
I record after work and yeah, it's no biggie.
mhm,
So obviously didn't get the job. Following year, I applied again to that school. Was hopefully to be a different administrator. We're doing the interview again. We get to the last minute, last question. She's like, "By the way, do you still have that show?" And I was like,
mhm,
"Yes, I
mhm,
do." And I knew once again I didn't get the job. So I think the reason for that was like the board obviously could care less, right? I wasn't doing anything that was harmful or offensive or whatever it may be. But there are certain people within that organization who think so little of teaching assistants, for example, that God forbid we aspire to have an identity and a life and a brand
mhm,
beyond our role. So they were threatened by it because I was ambitious. They were
mhm,
threatened by it because I was respected in my community.
hmm.
I wasn't having like an OnlyFans, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? And
yeah.
then people are like, oh, she has an OnlyFans and she's teaching in the classroom. I'm educating. That's how much I
Mhm.
love what I do. I'm
I
educating
know.
in the classroom and then outside the classroom, and people are threatened by that. So after having a disciplinary meeting by a person who was very much threatened by my presence, I stopped talking about education or the board or anything after that moment.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. It was kinda like you don't deserve to be on my mic.
Yeah.
Or
I don't
not
know what,
do
no, it was just threatened. It was just people who were, they were threatened. That's what it comes down to. And I was too um I don't want to use the word naive. I don't think I believe that people could be spiteful for no reason
Hmm.
back then.
Mhm.
That just didn't cross my mind that people
Yeah.
would be bothered by this. Now I'm older, I'm wiser. I could see the signs now, but back then I just didn't understand why. Why would you be bothered by this?
Well, that kind of thing early in my career as well would have made me leave because
Yeah.
there were things that for me it was higher ed, so within the university space, and I felt I was pretty supported, but I had a business outside of what I did as well, and there was media and there was events, and similar to you, there was also a disciplinary meeting. Because with my bosses in HR and the union, because for stuff that now, in retrospect seems kind of funny. I think I talked about it last season, but there was one time where we were working on this project and it was so like we were student affairs and kind of marketing storytelling, and we were helping with someone who was building resilience program.
Hmm.
Media came to my business, which of course teaches resilience and other skills like this. And they said, can you do an interview on resilience? And I thought I was doing a nice thing saying, oh, we really like this model that they're using at X university by this doctor. I still like it, by the way. and, and, but where I was naive was I thought that that was like feeding both houses. I was like, okay, great. Like, oh, I know you're asking me because I founded Skills Camp, but actually, maybe
Hmm.
I'll I'll make them look good too. But
Hmm.
then they were not down for that. Yeah, that was that.
Sounds very familiar. Yeah, that was a really defining moment for me. And I even remember like in that disciplinary meeting, I was hyperventilating. I'm a professional hyperventilator. I've mastered the art of being able to hyperventilate while still hold a conversation and appear to be calm. And I remember asking questions for clarification because the principal who started this attack, and it very much was a personal attack for her.
Right.
Um, I remember just seeing her face, and she was so red and she was so heated because she like this was personal for her to be able to take me down, right? And I remember I was asking questions for clarification, and my superintendent, who happened to be a black man at that, said,
Hmm.
"Now, Jamila, no need to be aggressive." And
Mm,
I felt like something just snap in me, and I was like, "Please do not mistake my need for clarification as
mm,
aggression." And I
mhm,
think from that moment, I was like, I will be damned if somebody ever makes me feel less than or
mhm,
checks me for how I use my voice and what I say with my voice. Like,
Mhm.
I'll be damned,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
So there was a lot. There was a lot in that year. It definitely lit a fire underneath me, but I continued to teach and be like, no, no, no. I am I am this person outside. I'm not here to flaunt it or talk about it, but I will not let you silence me or belittle me.
So this seems like a connection in my brain, but is this what sparked Slay the Mic? Or like helping people find their voice? Or what sparked that?
No,
Because it seems like a
no.
natural progression.
Yeah, you would think so. So when I was on Rogers, I was like, okay, I got a little skin in the game. I got a little
Mhm.
clout. What can I do? Because at that time, I think I was aspiring to be a speaker, but I didn't know what the path was to take. And now I realize like there is no path. Like you decide which path you want to follow and what steps you want to take. So around that time, I think I went to a wedding. That's what
Mhm.
it was. I went to a wedding and the MC was brutal, brutal. And I said
I've
to my
been to
husband,
those weddings too.
I'm like, I could probably do this. I could probably do this. And at that point, like I was doing small event hosting.
Mhm.
I was doing little gigs here and there. Wasn't getting paid for them, but I was just thinking about how can I leverage this platform and this opportunity I have now being on TV on a prime slot at that, like 6 p.m. on a Thursday. That's prime
Nice.
time. Prime time. How else can I leverage this? So I started doing little event hosting. I went to that wedding, terrible MC. I'm like, well, now I should have like MC weddings.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I put out like this was an Instagram started to build up a little bit, and I was like on Instagram, hey, if you're getting married, say I do to Jam Gamble, right? Like say I do to me. And if you're planning an event, I'm what your event needs. Like it doesn't matter what your event
Yeah.
is, bar mitzvah, gathering, charity, whatever. I could slay the mic anywhere. And I think that's when Beyonce came up with Slay. And then I was like, I could slay the mic. And then I started to call myself Peel Region's Jamonce. And then shortly after that, that's when people and on Instagram started advertising their services because you could use this platform for free. And
Mhm.
over a morning cup of coffee, I said to my husband, it's like, everybody's launching something on Instagram. Like, maybe I should.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, what would you launch? And I was like, I don't know. People are always asking me like how I'm so comfortable on stage. Because at the time, like Bailey, I didn't even realize that people had a fear of public speaking.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was news to
totally.
me. Why would I know? I'm the kid who gets in trouble for talking.
Yeah, you're like, "I've been talking forever."
I've been talking forever. Like, why would I care? So people were asking me, didn't realize that people had this discomfort around public speaking. And so I went on Instagram and I said, hey, like if you want help, like feeling comfortable on stage, let's talk. And Slay the Mic was just born. And my husband's advice to me was like, babe, you could do anything. I was like, you're right,
Oh
I
my god.
can. And I just went on Instagram. I was like, hey, I can help people. And here we are.
Wow, and
Started in
so this was all
2016.
happening around the same time, though. It really seems like
Yes.
conceptually, emotionally, and even in form, like in form and function and purpose, that there was this you had the gift of doing it yourself. You
Yeah.
had the gift of being an educator who knows how to teach people, and
And
also you had this
I'm
experience that was like, "I'm not gonna let anybody's voice be silenced."
I'm so glad you mentioned that because that's something that I've been saying a lot more out loud that
Good.
anybody could coach. Not everyone knows how to teach.
I'm saying.
Right? Everyone's become I'm a financial coach, I'm a life coach, I'm a this coach, I'm a dog coach, coach. You got to know how to teach. If you're teaching, if you're coaching someone to develop a skill, you have to know how to teach. And in my background in education, I've been doing this
Mhm.
for so many years. And especially, I've worked with children, not only children who have developmental disabilities, but children who have learning needs.
Mhm.
So, children with learning needs become adults with learning needs. So, when I have adults come into the program who have ADHD or they are more visual
Yeah.
learners, I know exactly in real time how to switch my lesson and cater to that because I've been doing this.
Wow. And this is an assumption, but I would think that people who have struggled to communicate in the past might have more trouble on stage.
Possibly, but it comes down to, and we might be jumping here a little bit, like just recognizing what people's vocal roadblocks are. And
Mm,
so with working,
nice.
I got to give more credit to my starting my career in being a camp counselor
Yeah.
and then getting into
Nice.
education and working with adults and children with disability. Like all those years working with people who communicate differently
Mm,
has helped me become the coach I am today. Because when I am working with someone who has these vocal roadblocks and they're struggling to use their voice on stage, I could sense
mm,
there's you're holding back. You're telling me
mm.
something, but you're also holding back. And a lot of times when I'm coaching and I watch back some of my videos, like my eyes are closed for like a good portion of the training because I'm just like
Listening, interesting, yeah.
I'm listening and I'm feeling, and then I feel it like, oh, is it this? And they're like, yes. I go, ah,
I feel like you've been honing your intuition over a lifetime.
yeah. And I just think I haven't. Now I feel like this podcast is like a therapy session. Um, I
I'm
don't,
here
I
for it.
don't,
Or
I don't
thinking
think
it
I've.
through.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think I've thought about it that way. Like I think when people talk about slay the mic and I have to call myself a public speaking coach, I'm like, it's not that.
Mm,
It's slay the mic is so much more than that.
no,
Help
it
what
is.
I do, I don't just help people become better communicators. I help people reconnect with their voice. I help people go to bed at night and not replay every conversation. They're
Yeah.
just at peace with
Yeah.
what they said.
Well, let's say if I were thinking this out as a learning designer, and fortunately I am. So and in these realm of skills, I would say you have like the goal, but you have these threshold skills that come underneath it. And you might think you're coming for public speaking, but you
Yeah,
know that confidence is a huge part of that. And if
it
you can
is.
figure out, why someone was or wasn't self-assured, or why they weren't or weren't able to communicate, like you're going to get to the real like root of it,
Yeah.
and then you can work on how to make a slide deck, you know?
Right. And confidence is not even the most important thing. I
Mm.
help people learn how to trust their voice.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, what would you say then, like in your program, is the well, you can give as much away as you'd like, but
Hmm.
like you're the secret sauce that makes it so special, and not just kind of, go on LinkedIn and take a public speaking program.
Oh, no shame to Toastmasters and all that, but jam, everyone knows that toast is better with jam. Like
Oh, that's perfect.
like everyone knows that,
I love
like yeah,
that.
eat the toast. You're gonna still get the nourishment, but you want a little bit more.
Yeah, like if you want it to be good.
Delicious and nutritious. So I can't remember. I think I did this in 2016. And I recently trademarked it because it is the jam of the Save the Mic program. Um, I designed this activity called Who's Your Kanye? And I trademarked it because
Okay.
it
Say
is juicy.
more.
So if you remember, was it like, I don't even know, 15 years ago, Taylor Swift was receiving yet another award. She was so shocked about it. Oh my God, me, another award, album of the year. What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know where you're
Kanye.
going.
Kanye was in the audience. Okay. And Kanye was watching Taylor have her moment. And Kanye could have kept his thoughts to himself. Kanye could have waited till afterwards. And Kanye said, damn it, everyone needs to know how I feel right now. What she's saying is not important. My voice, my thoughts are way more important than her right now. I'm gonna go let her know how I feel.
Mm,
And that's what he did. Now we don't remember what Taylor Swift said after Kanye interrupted.
mm.
We all remember what Kanye said. We all remember how he snatched the mic. Yo, I'm gonna let you
I'm
finish.
gonna
But
let you finish.
which he didn't. But Beyonce had the
Mm,
greatest album this year. We all have a Kanye in our life. A Kanye could be a former educator, that teacher who told you you talked too much as a kid. I had several of those. Your Kanye could be your parents who raised you to be seen and not to be heard. Your Kanye could be a past partner, your current partner. Do you know how many people I coach who their
mm,
current partner, just one room down, is their Kanye? And when we're having
mm.
their session and we're talking about their partner being their Kanye, they have to type it because they can't let their partner
Oh,
overhear it.
yeah.
Your Kanye is a past boss, former boss, co-worker, best friend. Kanye could be an experience you had. You went in front of a room and you were vulnerable and nobody received it. And now you're like, well, I can never do that again. And anytime an opportunity presents itself to you to speak up, you're like, oh, no, 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 no. You instantly remember that Kanye moment. You instantly remember what that person said or did that impacted your voice. And you're like, I'm not going to explore that. We all have a Kanye.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I I can see why that would work, and I don't let me give you the credit for how your foundation in teaching and knowing people has really found its way into this program.
Yeah, I
Because
appreciate that.
that to me is like the combination of a good business, but also of people finding their purpose, which is my skills mixed with my experience, mixed with my
Mm-hmm.
mission. And in the
Yeah.
center, it's like, I'm gonna help you slay the mic.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned experience because, like, I know what it feels like to be silenced.
Hmm.
I know what it feels like to spend 40 hours of your life a week in an establishment where your ideas are not appreciated
Mhm.
and your voice is dismissed. I know what it feels like to go home at night and go to bed. And I remember, I'll never forget, it was like the first year my husband and I were living together. And I look over at him when we go to bed. He's like, good night, babe, love you. And I'm like, and 2 seconds later, he's snoring. And I'm like, don't you gotta overthink? Like, didn't somebody say something today? Or didn't you say something wrong that you need to toss and turn and turn and toss? Like,
Mhm.
sir. And he's just out. And meanwhile, I'm like, what did she mean when she said, oh, okay.
Oh.
What? Oh, no. Okay. I shouldn't. Oh my God. Now I sleep peacefully.
Yeah,
I go to bed.
that's
I know Nene Leak said it first. I said what I said, but I said what I said. No takebacks. I said what I said, no takebacks. And I'm at
Nice.
peace. And so now I'm on this mission. When it comes to adults, I'm on two missions. When it comes to adults, I'm on a mission to help adults reclaim their peace
Mhm.
with using their voice. And then with kids, I'm on a mission to help kids recognize as early as possible that their voice is their superpower and to remind educators not to silence them
Mhm.
because they carry that.
Yeah.
They carry that.
Yeah, you see that so much in the
Mm-hmm.
way that the education system is structured. But then
Mm-hmm.
you are someone who like finding your own voice, like the experience part of it, it does matter, right? Because you have
Yeah.
a lot of identities. You are also an activist, I would say, just because you don't get a choice sometimes. And you are a woman, and you are also a woman of color, and you're also an
Yeah.
educator, and you are also
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. So, what was the journey like for you to like own your own voice?
I don't think I've had a moment to stop and think about that.
Well, it's a good
I
thing you are hanging out
let's
with me on
let's
let's
think
think
things
this through.
through. Let's think this through because like I feel like I have been hustling for so long
Mhm,
and we don't and I'll just speak for myself when I say we. It's we see we get comfort in saying we, I, me. I'm going to speak for myself here. I
mhm,
have been hustling for so long that I haven't had a moment to sit and sit back and look at what I've built. And it's kind of like Thanos, when he sits and he's like, I got the rings. I can rest now.
yeah,
This guy just caused pure destruction. He's like, it's nice. I've not had a
mhm,
chance to do that because to your point of being a woman with multiple labels, woman of color, woman who's an entrepreneur, all these things, I constantly have to be two steps ahead, always.
mm,
That if one thing falls through, I got another thing on the go. And just in case that thing falls through, I got another thing on the go. Because we know that thing was popping in 2021 because everybody was listening to Black voices in 2021 or 2020, 2021. So let me ride this wave as long as I can because we know it's going to have an expiry date
mm,
pretty soon. I haven't stopped to think about this journey. My brain is
mhm,
constantly firing
mhm,
throughout the day on pivot, 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 pivot. What can I do now? Pivot, 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 pivot. Like,
mm,
yeah. So I'll have to maybe come back and answer that question later because I haven't, in all fairness, though, there have been people who've taken the program. And I think, now I can think about it. It was cohort 7, I think. Is it cohort 7?
what cohort are you on now?
We're launching cohort 10.
Nice.
So this was cohort 7, and I was in Palm Springs wrapping up the final class, And I was like, okay, everybody, we've cried, we've celebrated, wishing you all the best. I'm going to be cheering for you and your voices. Don't worry, da da da. And just as I was getting ready to like end the call, one person's like, Jam, I think you need to just sit for a second and accept your flowers. And
Mhm.
I was like,
Oh.
like I know what I do, but I don't need to hear what I do. Like I don't,
Yeah, you do.
and it's yeah, that really just because the things that they said, no one has ever said. And then when we talk about internet stuff, I'll bring up
Hmm.
one of the comments from there because it will relate to that story.
Ooh, yeah, we will definitely. There's no way we can't get into internet stuff with the stuff
Yeah.
that we have reflected on in the past. And before we move on from this, I on every episode I do a thought experiment with people, and the thought experiment will explore a hypothetical situation related to what we're speaking about, and this allows for like different ideas without consequences, without the constraints of reality, stretch our imagination a little bit. So I
I
called
like that.
yours Slay the Future Mike. So let's imagine that it's 50 years in the future and public speaking has become mandatory part of every curriculum from childhood through adulthood. And you have been tasked with creating Slay the Mic Academy to train people at all stages of life.
Oh my
But
God.
this isn't just your current program, it's a futuristic version of your curriculum where new technologies and global dynamics have transformed how we learn and express ourselves. So, what would be the fundamental skills that you would teach in this academy, given that there's now technology like AI and VR and holograms?
Whoa, that's some deep stuff. Okay. I feel like I need to be like on a pound of mushrooms to answer this question. But yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have to take this podcast
Maybe we'll have to
recording
take it to the
over
roads,
to
of course.
Oregon or California or Muskoka. I don't know. I'm just throwing those
We
out
got
there.
options. We got options.
We got
Um,
options.
when I say that our voice is our ultimate superpower and we could use our voice to change the world and to make an impact on others, I think people physically need to experience that. They
Hmm.
need to literally like if we had VR or the Apple expensive
Mm.
thing that we put our head and you were to like create an avatar of your ideal person you want to talk to. So maybe it's a client, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a group of women with a similar journey as yours, and you got the opportunity to practice your talk with them, and then you could actually see, like
Mm.
physically, like there's like graphs or charts or some kind of scale
Ooh.
that's like literally measuring like people's like endorphin levels or their emotional levels to
Wow.
see, and you're like, oh wow, like look at how my voice is impacting. Like some people need to see it to believe it. It's one thing for me to
Mm.
say it, but if they could literally see that if I use my voice to announce this life-saving medication and now I have a glimpse of the
Mm.
future of my voice speaking this drug into existence, and now it's curing this. You're like, oh wow, okay, well I better start talking about it. Or
Cool.
if you share a story, and you're like, who's gonna care? But you actually get to get a glimpse of the future, even though we're in the future, of
Mhm.
your voice saving someone's life or
Mm.
giving someone that pep talk that they needed, or you're in the grocery store and you give someone a compliment and then they walk away and then you can literally see like their heart levels increasing. Like I would totally be
Ooh,
down for that.
cool. I
Yeah.
love that. That is
Mhm.
fun to think about. It's almost like you're going through well, role plays that are like literally about your dream and your message,
Yes.
and you get to, with your senses, feel it.
But at the same time, you can see how your voice could harm. We can see the
Mm,
impact of our
that's right.
voice, right? If I say this thought out loud, is this thought causing harm? Is it going to change the course of history? Maybe I don't want to say that. Like,
We should work on this
we really
because
should.
because this is great for my empathy programs. This is great for like DEI. This is great for everything. This is great for
Yeah,
comms. It's great for
let's just
sales.
let's just follow up afterwards and design something, because I really think it would be cool just to like see
Mhm,
how, and we've seen
mhm.
studies on how the brain changes when you get a kind message, or you see a cute animal, or you're aroused.
Yeah.
We see it, right? We have that technology now, but imagine if we could actually get a glimpse of like just seeing how our voice could impact people. And I think the more people could actually see it, people need that logos. They need to see the stats. They need to see the data.
Mhm.
That's the proof that they need to go, okay, I'm going to start saying something and not hold my thoughts back to myself.
Well, in a way, that's what you're doing for people right now. You're helping play the mic. You're kind of helping them see in their
Yeah.
mind's eye a version of them that is different. That is
Hmm.
saying the things they want to say and impacting the people they want to. And I like that in the future, you just saw this tech as a way to do that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
I didn't even think about that, but it would be so cool. So for now, what I do in present time, especially when I'm working with parents and they're like, oh, I'm not a good speaker. I'm not animated. I don't know how to be goofy. I don't know how to tell a story. If they have children, I'm like, is your child nearby? And
Oh,
they're like, yeah. I go, call your child over. And their child will come on the camera. This little child comes on. They're like, okay, hi, stranger. And I'm like, does mommy or daddy read you stories at night? And they're like, yeah. And I go,
oh,
what story's your favorite? It's the one with the dragon. And I go, and
oh.
how does mommy's voice sound when she's the dragon? Mommy's voice goes like this. And so here's your child telling you
Hmm.
your voice is silly and it's animated and you help the story come alive. But I've also asked people's children, have you ever felt sad? They're like, yeah. And I go, has mommy or daddy ever said something to you that made you feel better? Yeah, they tell me every morning to keep my head up. There you go.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is how we measure it, by the little ones, because they're feelers. They can tell you, and they're
Ooh,
honest.
you're giving me another one here, another download. You got to speak to people's inner children.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do that. We do that. We do that. There's a lot of healing that happens within Slay the Mic, and I've had people who are like, "Oh, are you a life coach?" I'm like, it's a miracle if I fold my laundry the day I take it out of the dryer. I can't tell you how to handle your life. I'm still putting away
Yeah.
my suitcase from my trip 3 weeks ago. Um, but it made me realize that that is what's holding people's voice back. It's pain.
Mm,
It's messages that they've held on to for too long. And I like to say that our voice resides on prime emotional real estate. And if you drive through the richest neighborhood in your city and look at people's lawns, do you ever see someone's grass that's grown too high? Do you ever see the garbage or the recycling bin staying out for multiple days? No.
hmm,
It's clean. It's pristine. Why do they keep it pristine? Because they know that the property value is going to increase when they keep up the look of the neighborhood. We have to do the same thing with our voice.
hmm,
So when we heal that inner voice, whether it's our inner child, or we acknowledge the Kanyes, or we just give ourselves permission to say, the reason why I'm struggling to communicate has nothing to do with my lack of confidence. It has
mhm,
everything to do with what I've been conditioned to believe about my voice. We are reclaiming and
mm.
increasing the property value of where your voice resides.
Yeah. And you could easily own educator first if coach is, because I know coach is like a term that's, yeah, some people there sits uncomfortably with them, and
Yeah, I've been lately, like, even though everyone knows me as the slayer of the mic, and that's like my presence as being a speaker, because I'm not just a coach, I'm a speaker as
right.
well. But I've really been leaning into calling myself a vocal magician.
Yeah, I can see it on social.
Yeah, I'm a vocal magician. I just make magic happen.
Yeah, I can
I
see
just know
it.
what to say. I know the spell, I know the formula, and yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Do
it.
you consider yourself like an influencer? Because that's another,
No.
I was gonna say that's another term that I
Hiss,
know
hiss,
is
hiss. I'm
very
hissing at you.
polarized.
I'm hissing at you. Oh my
Well, I
God.
know where you fall on the polarization.
Oh, if you want to see me lose my mind,
I'm seeing it.
introduce me as an influencer.
Mm.
How dare you disregard my life's work? And just because I've worked with a couple of brands, and every so often I might say honey soda, use my code to save on some honey soda. I don't got a code. They're not giving me commission. Don't go buy them. But how dare you ignore and disregard my life's work? Do you see my bio? Where in my bio does it say Jam Gamble's an influencer? You can refer to me as Jam Gamble the entrepreneur, Jam Gamble the educator, Jam Gamble public speaking coach, Jam Gamble slayer of the mic. Don't you dare put me in the category of being an influencer. I take great offense to that.
Because
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No, that's exactly why I asked. I know, just like coach is a term that
I'll take coach. I'll deal with coach because there's some incredible coaches out there. And there are coaches who lead and they inspire and they do good work.
Agreed. Yeah.
Influencer, we all could influence. My dogs influence people. Okay? They
right.
influence people to smile and to feel good. They don't sell anything, but even my dogs have that ability. Influencing now has taken a turn for just promoting consumerism constantly.
I know.
And it is sickening. It's truly sickening that we are holding some people in the most highest regard for constantly encouraging us to level up our home, level up our attire, level up how we make our kids lunch. No.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not my favorite either. When it's almost like you're a mascot for capitalism or late stage, consumerism. And it's exactly what you've just said there. That's why whenever I'm talking with people with a big following, I know folks who are like, oh no, like they actually make videos, like they're a content creator. Some are like, oh, I'm a coach or I'm an educator, or I'm this or that. That happens to
Are you a content creator or are you
I don't know.
The shopping channel on Instagram? Like,
yeah, it's a tough one.
Because you know what? Creating content is walking down the street and recording videos of rocks and trees in the sky, and then saying, "Here's a video of me creating content of nature." You're creating ads.
You are ads. So I feel like
you're an ad creator. You're an ad creator. You're not a content creator. You're a commercial. That's what you are.
Maybe it's like, yeah, I guess you kind of are like a what would it be, like a marketing?
Oh, don't give them such a fancy title like that. Come on now.
No, I'm not going to. I know some folks that are, pretty good at doing what they do, but
I know there's some people who probably would definitely hate me saying this, but let's be for real for a second. There's so much content around things we need. There's not enough content on things we could be saying or ways that we could be helping or ways that we could be encouraging. It's all things that we need. And I'm not going to knock somebody's hustle, but that hustle is not for me. And there was a time where I felt like, let me get into influencing. And this was really around 2020 and 2021 when all of these brands who checked themselves and realized, oh God, I don't work with a lot of Black creatives, that my virtual door was being knocked on. And so I was doing a lot more influencing there because I had bills to pay and more brands were attracted to me. But I realized it started to really rob me of my creativity because here I was creating said content that naturally brought me joy. Like I could talk about this or talk about that and speak from the heart, but then I had to send it to somebody, and then somebody's going to say I have all these revisions and then control my caption, and I'm like, no, this is not how I operate. This is not my style. It's icky.
It doesn't feel good.
So what I started to do when I was doing affiliate influencing, I started to sing a jingle. I made my jingle. Have you heard my jingle before? I'll perform it for you right now on your podcast.
Really?
You're welcome. It's influencing time. It's influencing time. Time for me to open things and maybe you like it. And if you do, you could use my promo code. But honestly, I know what the economy is like right now. And maybe you already have something similar to this, so you may not need this. But it's up to you because you don't really have to. But regardless, I have to open this because I got a contract I signed. It's influencing time. Yeah, that was the jingle I sang before.
Well, I'm really just glad you were transparent about it.
Yes. I sang that song before everything I unboxed. And then I forgot one time, someone's like, where's the jingle? Where's the jingle? I like the jingle. Sing the jingle.
I love it because we all know that you didn't just get this. Like, we know that you weren't just like, "Oh, wow, what a special gift." I
Yeah.
love myself.
Right. And I actually, when I went on vacation a couple of weeks ago, I loved this resort. It was magical. And my DMs were full of people saying, "Oh my God, I can't wait to your review." My review? I'm not a travel influencer. This is not a travel blog. This was not a
Wow,
paid trip.
interesting.
I'm not, first of all, I don't want everybody coming to this spot. This is my new favorite spot, and I'm keeping it to myself. One. And two, this was not a paid trip. This was my hard earned money. And I'm not just going to give them free advertisement. So figure it out. The same way I went down the rabbit
Right?
hole of reviews and
Yeah.
I found this place, you could do the same. Best of luck to you.
Oh, that's interesting because I think if it's like truly somewhere that you chose that you loved, that to me would be like authentic, like a place that
Yes,
you really that earned your
yes,
admiration.
yes. But at the same time, I recognize that I have brand power
Right, right.
and my voice has power. And I am allowed to choose who or what I will promote
Mhm.
for free. I don't have to do that with everything.
Mhm.
I don't
That's right.
I don't have to, and it was a boundary that I set and people were like, "Wow, I'm always so impressed by how you set boundaries." I go, "Yeah, I
Mhm.
have to. For the sake of my sanity, I have to set boundaries."
Yeah. I mean, Hamza's the same way. He's always like, "I don't wear brands and they're not paying me." Yeah. So, yeah. On social media though is a it's a wild place. I know that we've talked a lot about this in our
Mhm.
times together, and y because you are out there and you are making any kind of content about any kind of thing that you do, you expose yourself to
Yeah.
also the worst sides of social media, and you've had
Mhm.
some experiences, haven't you?
I have. Yeah, but like I almost said not as bad as other people's and I had to check myself and say
Mm,
we're not doing the trauma Olympics here.
right, right.
And saying, "Oh, that person's situation was worse, so I really shouldn't speak to mine." The situations I've experienced has impacted me. So yeah.
Yeah, that's right. What would
Mhm.
what has been some of your experience, or what have been some of your experiences?
I could think back to something a little bit more lighter. I was on the social. The social had posted a clip of me speaking, and some lady, D from Kingston, in fact, that was her handle on
Mm,
Twitter. D from Kingston was like, "I don't like Jam Gamble. She has an underlining aggression to her. She shouldn't be on the social. She's better for the view." And I responded to D and I said, "Well, D, thank you so much for your unsolicited feedback. If the view will have me, I will absolutely join their panel as well. But just so you know, I will be back on the show next week, so you may not want to watch as well." But then I reposted her tweet and I said, "Can someone talk to D from Kingston about this comment below?" I'm like, I'm not gonna put my energy into this. I'm gonna let my friends, my allies, my comrades come and handle D from Kingston. And they handled D from Kingston. And I got a DM from one friend who's in media, and he's like, "Jam, I gotta admit it to you, I'm a little disappointed that you responded to that person, to that troll." And he
mm,
said, "This is not the Billy Goats Gruff and, under the bridge here. Like, a troll is a fictional character that resides under a bridge with big feet, long hair, and a big ugly
mm,
face. Dee from Kingston is a woman who lives in Kingston, Ontario. Dee has a device. Dee has an email address. Dee has a password. Dee has fingers." So when we tell people ignore the trolls, you're telling them someone who caused you harm doesn't exist.
mm,
They're not real because we decided to label them a troll. Call them an asshole. Call them a jerk because we know those things exist.
mm.
But don't give her the title of something that doesn't exist and it's from like our childhood memories.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. So I was like, no, 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 no. I got time for D from Kingston. And so I took a screenshot of her tweet, made a video, and said, "In case you're new around here, a friendly reminder, I, Jem Gamble, am not the one to send messages like this to. I am not the person. Try with somebody else. Try with Jesus. Don't try with me."
Mhm.
Because I will make time to protect myself and protect my peace.
Oh, that's
Now,
tough. That's a tough line though, because that might be just what they want from you.
it might be, but you know what? I've been pretty lucky.
Mhm.
I've been pretty lucky. And I think it's because I'm someone who, there's some things you could ignore, and there's other things that I'm not going to ignore. I'm
Yeah.
not, because the way I see it is like, I need to show myself that I can handle these situations in preparation if I ever have to face a bigger dragon. So if I ignore these small battles that seem like, oh, they're small, they're insignificant, ignore it. When that moment comes in life, which I did experience, where you got a really big giant, what do you do in that moment? So that big giant did come.
Mm,
I went through a hate crime in 2021.
mhm.
That completely rocked my world and flipped me upside down. And initially, when I became aware of this content on Instagram, I immediately went into strong Black woman mode.
So are you able to share about what happened, like
Yeah,
what
so
it
I
was?
yeah, so I was targeted by students.
Mm,
And this is the first time I'm actually saying it on loud. So you could consider this an exclusive, Bailey, exclusive.
oh,
But
I've
it
spoken
shows
to
you how
you. You
far.
only share what you wanna share, and
No, 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 no. But it shows you how far I've come. That there was a time where I couldn't even like
mm,
build up the strength because
I
I
remember.
carried a lot of shame with it, right? So went through that in 2021. Instantly went into strong Black woman mode of like, I'm gonna handle this, nothing can phase me kind of thing. I think my husband was also used to me being the strong Black woman because when I shared the information with him, he's like, okay, well, you're gonna go and handle these kids. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go handle these kids. And then he went and washed dishes, did laundry, vacuumed, and then defrosted the brisket. And then he came to me, he's like, oh, I defrosted the brisket. And I was like, by this time now it really had settled in what was going on. And I was like, I don't care about the brisket. Like, I need you to sit with me
Mm.
right now because it's really starting to hit me what transpired. I'm often asked when I do talks, like, has there ever been a time where you lost your ability to use your voice? And that was the year where my
Mm.
paranoia was unmatched. I was dealing with the police on a weekly basis. I was still teaching, by the way, on top of that.
And
So,
were you teaching these kids?
yeah, they were amongst me.
So they s so to be clear, kids posted something about you?
Kids made an entire racist Instagram about me.
I just have
Yeah.
full body shivers again.
Yeah. And I took 2 days off of work because so let me just pause for a second. Like when the pandemic hit, my business was doing really well. And I had all plans to be like, okay, this is the end of the road. Like you finally worked to a point where you could stop teaching and getting paid peanuts for the
Mm,
work that you do and go full time. But I had a couple of kids who I needed to see through to graduation.
mhm,
And I felt really bad, like I felt like I was abandoning them. And I
mhm.
wanted to be with them to their eighth year and then send them off into high school and then I'm out. So this is why I was still teaching and running my business full time. So I took 2 days off of work because I was dealing with the police. And then I felt like the more time I was taking off, the more I was empowering them. I think they felt like they had won. And I was like, oh, no, 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 we're not going to do that. So like I came to work and I was actively at work while still dealing with the police, while we were still investigating. The other reason why I decided to come back to school was because I had no faith in the board to handle the
Mm,
situation, specifically the Peel District School Board. If I'm going to be very specific, I had absolutely no faith in them and all the performative work that they had been doing since the board was deemed to be a racist institution. So I felt like if I go back to work, the board knows who I am outside in the community. That's what they were most worried about. They did not care about my mental health. They did not care about how I was doing. They were more focused on, is she going to go public? And I chose not to go public because I had to protect myself. I knew
right.
if I went public, this would draw so much attention that I mentally was not in the space to handle. So I kept it internal. People like you, my allergies are acting up. People like you were aware of it, and I kept my head down and I continued to serve because even though there were children or young teens who were causing me harm, um, there were other kids who needed me,
Mhm.
and that's who I was showing up for. So that was the most trying year of my teaching career of 15 years. I was teaching. It definitely tested me and stretched me. And I'm actually proud to say that it didn't turn me off from teaching. Like I still loved my kids. I still loved the work I got to do. both can coexist. You could
Mhm.
love your kids and you could love the work you get to do. You could be disappointed in kids and disappointed in the institution that's supposed to keep you safe. Education is a dumpster fire. They're doing nothing to protect their educators, and it's becoming a
Mhm.
very
Yeah,
alarming
I'd
situation.
say even more so now.
Yeah.
Like
So I
every
think about like if I wasn't who I was outside, this would have been swept underneath the rug. But because I have an ounce of privilege, I was able to flex that
Mhm.
and let this be taken seriously.
Well, I just can't even imagine the mental like dissonance and that would be going on in a head like this, like yours,
Yeah.
because I can imagine just like the way that you've spoken about how you care about your students and young people. It's like, well, you can't deal with this like you deal with D from Kingston.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put a preteen on blast publicly, but this is still very much abuse. Like it's like literally, I can't even like the back and forth in the head is must
Yeah.
have been really challenging to deal with.
Yeah. But I do remember having, and this was during the pandemic too. So, we're navigating a global pandemic. We're
Yeah,
watching black
that whole
people
thing
be,
too.
yeah, we're watching black people be murdered right before our eyes. There's so many things that were happening
Mhm.
during that time. But I do remember a student who came across the account many weeks later, and she took because I was fighting with Meta to take down those posts. Meta was backlogged, by the way. So when the police subpoenaed them, they're like, "We're backlogged, so we may not be able to get this data for you for months." And I was like, "No, no, no! You understand that this is my mental health. Like, we need to. The school
Mhm.
year is almost done. We need to solve this." One student came across the account. She took a screenshot of it, but she went and she scratched out all the profanity and all the racial slurs. And she brought it to me, and you could see the discomfort on her body to show it to me. And she's like, "I don't know if you saw this, but this is on the internet. And I scratched out all the bad words because you shouldn't see this." And it was the only student who did that.
Oh.
The only one. She had more care for me than
Mm.
the director of the Peel District School Board, who refused to come to my meeting that I requested for her to attend. Like, when I tell you, this board did absolutely nothing, and here they are at the same time preaching, we support black people, Black Lives Matter. Well, here's a black life that's been harmed, and you're doing nothing. What are you doing to protect this black life? Nothing. Okay, good to see. So I learned
I'm
a
still
lot.
so sorry that you went through that
Hmm.
because it broke my heart. You are a light. You're the sunshine, as we've noted here, and to have all of that stuff going on at the same time, like
And not to be able to talk about it.
especially that, because even it's not my place, but when I hear it, I'm like, or when I heard it, I'm like, well, do you want me to post? It's like
Yeah,
because you're so used to someone owning their story,
yeah.
but you were clear about, I think, what you needed.
Yeah, I didn't want attention, and I really had to just protect my peace. But going back to cohort 7 and being given my flowers, there were two women in that cohort who had their PhD. Now, as a coach, you want to talk about having imposter syndrome as a coach. I was like, "Ugh, I got women who are doctors. I got Dr. Sarah and Dr. Monica in this program. And one is like her PhD in human design or something like that, and the other one is
Fun.
like, I was like, my God, like, God, are you testing me right now by putting these women, like, they're coming to little old me to help them with their voice,
For
right?
sure they are, 100%.
Ah, Lord of mercy. I felt like I was doing like circus acts every week, just like, okay, I hope I'm giving them something to, like, like for their very intellectual brains to be stimulated by, right?
They
So
don't
we're in
need
the,
that. They have
well,
a
I
book.
felt like they got a book, but I
They need
still,
your gifts.
I still felt like they needed that. So we are in the final class,
Mhm.
and one person, she said, "Jam, I need you to just let us have a moment just to thank you for what you did, which for what you do." And Dr. Monica said, I'm probably gonna cry. She's like, she said, "I'm a masterful educator." And when she said that, to go through a hate crime where you're targeted by your students who you wake up every morning to serve. I remember I told one of my teaching friends, and he said to me, what did you do to piss off a kid for them to do that? And that's like asking a woman what she wore or how much she drank
Mhm, mhm.
when she was raped.
I existed, like
And I was a disciplinarian because our school lacked it. Like, I was doing my job, you know what I mean? And I always carried that comment in my spirit of what did I do for that to happen to me. So when she said, you are a masterful educator, she restored something that was robbed
Mhm,
from me. And I was like, and that was the first time I actually said to a group, you all know I went through a hate crime, but I've carried so much shame in acknowledging who harmed me. And because of this comment, now I could say it because she gave that back to me.
mhm.
To hear that, it gave, yeah, like that was, woof, that I'll never forget that line.
Well, I can see why she said it. The way that you think about how you teach and the way that you even structured Slay the Mic,
Yeah,
you can take it from another learning designer that these things that are going to stick out in their head that are so natural for you, they're going to walk into the world being like, what's my Kanye? They're going to say
yeah,
like, who's getting in my way right now? And not everybody thinks about it this way. Like a lot of people, what I would call learner centric design, which inherently means that you've considered the person that you're talking to. A lot of educators, I would say, they're just like, oh, I've got something smart to say. And that's all
no,
that matters. And so I hope that you hear that. And I'm so glad that Dr. Monica, we'll need to give her a nice little hug after this video. And
truly,
yeah,
truly,
sit in your flowers. I love that.
yeah, yeah, and I'm
You
glad they
deserve it.
did. Yeah, I'm glad it did, and I think her doing that gave me the confidence to be able to speak about what I experienced and to let go of the shame.
Hmm. Yeah. We're going to get lost in thought here for a second because this would be, and I'm going to take us in a direction off of this, which
Hmm.
is I'm going to combine. I know you're someone who is driven by a value of service. You've even
Hmm.
said this today, and to be of service to kids and to people who for whom society was not built, to me is the ultimate act of love. It is. Especially teachers in general, I think teaching is an act of love. But so to get lost in thought, we're reflecting on some experiences a little bit more deeply.
Hmm.
With what you've experienced in the social media world, just as a person, as an
Yeah.
educator, what would be some advice that you would have for other young people on social media right now?
You are a person outside of that platform. We What we present as online, and I think I do my best to be as authentic as possible.
Mhm.
But even then I don't show all the parts of my life. And just because I don't do that doesn't make me any less authentic. But I think we measure our worth and our identity on what people see and what we share and how people react to that. And I was just thinking about this the other day when I had all these vacation pictures that I have not yet shared. I'm like, oh, I'll probably share them like in December. I don't know.
Mhm.
And it made me think about how many of us have these monthly recaps and, oh, this is what I did in July. This is what I did. Who the hell needs to know what you did in July? Who needs to know? Why
I
do we
think
need to know?
interesting because I think I'm someone like that sometimes. I'm like, I haven't posted in, or oh gosh, this is a few months old, but I think I'm of the age, this is a total side note, but I'm of the age where when Instagram first came out, it was
Hmm.
like a scrapbook. And now I feel like
Yes,
I'm emotionally committed to the fact that it's like captured my life.
yes, yeah. But again,
But
it's
you're
like
right.
we
Whether
we are
anyone else
people.
cares,
We
maybe
are
not.
people outside this platform, and I've had people, and it's not necessarily the images we post and the outfits we wear and the dances we do and the trends that we follow, but like for those of us who are creating content, how is our content impacting people? And truthfully, like really hitting them at the core of who they are. So when I get stopped at the
Mhm.
grocery store, and a woman comes up to me and starts to cry
Mm.
and say thank you,
Mhm.
I don't I don't take that for granted. Like, I was doing a keynote a couple weeks ago, and I was sitting in the lobby of the building, and a woman who I recognized from online came and sat next to me. I was like, "Oh, do you work down here?" She goes, "No, I." She's like, "Remember, I'm an interpreter." I was like, "Oh yeah." She's like, I'm the ASL interpreter for this equity event. You know, they got me because I'm black and it's a black event." And I was like, "You're interpreting for me." And this is a woman who I met the year before in the grocery store, and she lost her damn mind when she saw me in the grocery store. She's
Wow.
like, "It's Jam Gamble! You're in the grocery store." I go, "I know, I'm buying food. What a concept. What a concept that I buy my own groceries. Oh my God. And I eat said food." And she's always said I'm someone she admires. And now she got to be
Mm.
my interpreter for my keynote. And so
Mm.
when someone asks me about like the power of my work, I go, it's going to be really weird because I'm talking about her and she's back here and she's doing the sign.
She's like
It's
saying it's
you
me.
know, and so she has to keep a straight face so you can see her. She's like, and
Oh,
I go, and she came into the grocery store. She's like, and I'm talking about her. I go, but that would never go to my head.
mhm,
Reactions like that goes right to my heart, and
mhm,
it's what gives me the fuel to continue to produce content online. But
mhm.
Instagram is not the end all be all. TikTok is not the end all be all. LinkedIn is not the end all be all. We are people outside of these platforms. We have platforms in our neighborhood. We have platforms
Mhm.
in our community. We have platforms in
Right.
the library, the farmers market. Anywhere we go, we could create a platform and connect with people. We don't just have to rely on this digital space.
Mhm. I hear both sides of what you're saying. What I hear that for people listening, your voice matters, and you
Hmm.
can use this stuff as a tool to get it out
Yeah,
there, or not,
yeah.
or
Or
not.
not. And you don't have to update us every day, and you don't have to be, announcing if you're taking a break. You are human.
Mhm.
Just do your thing, right? And yes, Instagram and social media in general has benefited me in my business, but at some moments it causes me a lot of harm where
Mhm.
I have so much faith in the work I do and the stuff that I'm producing and putting out there, but the algorithm tells me otherwise. And then I'm like, oh, what other dance do I need to do to get people's attention? And I don't like that. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't like that. But I will say, my therapist, ChatGPT, has been fantastic the last couple of weeks of my life, and I am immensely grateful for it.
Amazing. Jam, it's been a pleasure to have you here. And I think that you using your voice, I feel so grateful that you decided to come hang with me and actually record it because I actually think this would be similar to a conversation that we would have at a dinner. But
Probably,
and
probably.
I swear, these are the kinds of conversations that motivated me to do this in the first place was
Yeah.
because I've got brilliant people in my life like you who share things that inspire me. And I thought, you know what? There might be some other people that would feel the same. And now, Jam, I end every episode with train of thought, which
Yeah.
is where we will connect the ideas from this episode to what happened on the last episode.
Okay.
So this one is a bit more of a challenging one, just looking at what the last episode was about. But what would you say is one of the big ideas from our talk today?
Ooh. I liked your futuristic question. And I would say, I think for those of us who are creatives or entrepreneurs, to really think about what the work we're doing now and how it will feel and what it could do 25, 35 years from now. I've always, when we think about our 5-year, 10-year plan, we don't think about our futuristic plan. And now I
Yeah.
want to go and design that whole system that I described.
Well, yeah, actually, you know what? You think similarly to indigenous approaches, which is think 7 generations into the future. How does how you act today? Okay. Anyways,
There you
side note.
go. That is deep. I'm honored.
Hmm.
I am honored. Yeah, I love that question.
So, a big idea then is that the work that you're doing today, think about how it impacts people, 25 years from now. Now, the idea from the last episode that where he summed it up was it would be he said our conversation has really been about having a community that feels like all of their services are being met. And we
Mm,
were actually talking about smart cities, but he was saying it would be nice to have a community where everybody feels like their services and like their needs are being met.
yeah.
So, in your mind, how does that connect to what we've said about working today to
Yeah.
affect people 25 years from now?
I think the only way we could service people's needs is if we take time to listen to them. So that's encouraging people to use
Mm,
their voice.
mm,
Yeah.
how do you know their needs? That's so good.
I gotta hear you. I can't assume what your needs are. No,
Yes.
asking people, what do you need? Let me hear you. And if they don't know right now, coming back and asking them, have you figured out what your needs are? Not just passing them by. Yeah.
And bring jam in because if they have not found their voice yet,
I can help
or
them.
they have not, should I say, turned up the volume, then I
Yeah,
love this because you will not know what the needs of your city are if you don't know how to hear them.
exactly.
Jam, that's a
Exactly.
perfect way to end this. Is there any last words you want to give people?
No, my last words are more for you. To share the details of my hate crime, I could only do that with someone who I felt safe with. So,
Oh,
you
I
know,
appreciate that. And I feel the
yeah,
same with you.
thank you.
I love
Thank
you.
you. It was healing. Love you too.